What's up, everybody? It's TheJerkDonny here, and I'm bringing you something a little bit different. As if you've probably seen in a couple of my midnight jerk sessions, I'm very passionate about wrestling, especially WWE wrestling. As we all know, this past weekend there was a very monumental pay-per-view, as in WWE had their first ever all-female pay-per-view. This pay-per-view is called Evolution. Now, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check it out before you see my review of it, because honestly, it's probably next to like WrestleMania and Royal Rumble, which are personal favorites of mine, one of the better pay-per-views I've seen in the last couple of years. And this is just going to be my basically my thoughts on the pay-per-view as a whole, how I'm going to rank all the matches, and basically my thoughts on the whole show as a whole. Let me just preface by saying this is just my own opinion. If you don't agree with it, then you don't agree with it. Feel free to post your comments about the show down below, and we can discuss whether we agree. Maybe you can change my mind about some matches. And also the fact of how I'm going to be ranking these matches. I'm going to take my own personal bias outside, because if I did, one of these matches would be ranked a hell of a lot higher than what I'm going to actually give it. I'm going to take my bias as best I can outside of the match and just look at it objectively, which means that a lot of these matches are probably going to be ranked fairly low in consideration to most people, because I believe that the majority of matches are going to be ranked between like 2 to 3 stars. I'm going to do it based off Dave Meltzer, because I'm a mark, he's a mark. You know what I mean? If you can't do it, why can't I? I know he's a great researcher, but I mean, everything's just based off opinion for him as well. So yeah, that's what to expect. So don't hate me too much if I rank some of these matches very low, because majority of them are just going to be unless they're a really good match, they won't deviate too much from the norm. So let's start off by talking about the opening segment, where they have basically a reflection of how this revolution came about. I thought this was really touching. It actually put the show into a great mood right off the bat. I'm not gonna lie, when I got to like the Bailey part where she's crying, same as Sasha, it kind of got to me. I did tear up a bit. It really set in the mood, because these girls have worked hard. They've definitely changed the industry from basically divas. Like from when I started watching, it was Kelly, Melina. Not to like trash on them, but they weren't really given much time. They were just basically pandering to like the bra and panty matches. The matches I did enjoy was like Mickie James and Beth Phoenix, who was on commentary, which, by the way, short segment into the commentary, the team of Renee Young, Beth Phoenix, and Michael Cole, can we just have them for a lot of shows? Because their commentary was top notch. Like, I love Corey Graves. Maybe I'd replace Beth Phoenix with Corey Graves, but Beth Phoenix is no slouch as a commentator. I really enjoy their commentary. It didn't take away from any of the matches, and I thought it added to it. And then we had the live performance. I'm not gonna lie, I skipped over that, because for me, when I'm watching a wrestling show, I don't really want to see a live performance. Like, I'm pretty sure if you went to go see a band, you wouldn't want to see like a live match. Actually, now that I think about it, that'd be pretty cool. Seeing like a quick match before going into the concert. But for me personally, I don't like to mix music with my wrestling too much. So we'll start off with the opening match, which was Trish Stratus and Lita versus the team of Mickie James and Alicia Fox with Alexa Bliss. Love their entrances. Definitely brought back some nostalgia. I wasn't really much of an Attitude Era guy, but I did go back and watch a lot of it. I know my dad especially, is a big fan of Trish Stratus, and she basically went from a valet to one of probably the best women athletes, in my opinion, the best women athlete ever. Maybe that's a bit stretching. There's some really good ones now. This was kind of, I love the entrances. I love the cosplay that Bliss's team did. A lot of you are probably agreeing with me that this match probably would have been a lot better if Alexa Bliss was in it over Alicia Fox. No offense to Alicia Fox, because they basically planned around the match being with Alexa Bliss in there, but she had to be taken out because of a head injury, is what is suspected. And that kind of threw a wrench into like a lot of the match, because to be honest, the match was kind of off. Like, the nostalgia factor was definitely there. The crowd was definitely into it, but if you watch the match just objectively, like, it was not very good. Like, a lot of stuff was mistimed. A lot of moves that weren't executed properly. There was a lot of downtime. Lita didn't really sell that well. She did better than what she did in the Royal Rumble, in my opinion. Trish Stratus was off, which was interesting for me. Same as Mickie James. There was a spot I remember when Trish Stratus tried to go for the Stratus faction, and there was like a long pause with like the headlock she had her in, and the transition to that was kind of awkward. Like a lot of the transitions, like the Alicia Fox missing the miss count. I will say though, to Alicia Fox's credit, she tried her best and sold everything. Like, she was dying to Trish Stratus and Lita. The result of that match, of course, was all the nostalgia moves getting hit in the head, like the chick kick, the twist of fate, the moonsault, and Trish Stratus and Lita picked up the win over Mickie James and Alicia Fox. Overall, I give this match like a 1 out of 5. And I'm being kind of generous here, because the 1 is just because overall you could get lost in the match. Like, a lot of that stuff did take away from it, but the crowd was into it, the nostalgia was there. So it's definitely not the worst I've ever seen. I'd definitely give it a solid 1 out of 5. Now we move on to the 20-woman Battle Royal for a future Women's Championship match. Now, personally for me, I love Battle Royals. Battle Royals are probably my favorite match type, next to, like, number 1's probably Royal Rumble, then Battle Royal, but they're kind of the same thing. What I really liked is that they gave every individual their own entrance. I thought that really helped with the whole atmosphere of the show, showing that each of these women have contributed to what this pay-per-view is all about, that the women are now at the forefront. What I really loved about it is probably my favorite women tag team in WWE right now, the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. These women are extremely, extremely talented. I think they're really underrated because they play more of a comedy role, but I think they're really good at heat magnets because they're annoying. Their Aussie accent, my bad. And I thought what they did, where they basically crap talked all the legends, and they got tossed over the rope immediately, but they basically got themselves over in the short span that they had. The crowd was really into it. I thought it was a good way to start the match, especially since we had the old versus the new. And then what I really enjoyed about this is the old wrestlers didn't try to, like, take away from it. Like, you had women like Alundra Blaze, Molly Holly, Kelly Kelly, Tori Wilson, Michelle McCool, Ivory, which I was really surprised to see Ivory in there. She did. I'm not gonna lie, I loved her performance in that match. I was really happy to see, like, a lot of these legendary women not taking, like, the spotlight too much away from the newer generation. One of my favorite spots also in this match, I just want to quickly mention, is the Mandy Rose Sonya Deville, where Mandy Rose eliminates Sonya Deville. Now, how this transpires into a story, because it's obvious that WWE wants to push Mandy Rose. I mean, she's really beautiful. She's really talented. A lot of people are saying that she might be the next Trish Stratus, and honestly, I believe it. Like, her moves are devastating. They're nice and crisp. Her selling needs to be a little bit worked on, but that comes with time. What I did notice is that there's a lot of, like, awkwardness in this Battle Royal. Like, basically from the point from Sonya Deville being eliminated to when they finally eliminated Naomi, there wasn't really too much going on. Like, it was a lot of, like, downtime, people hitting big moves. I know they did have the stare down with, like, Nia Jax and Tamina, which is tremendous. And I love how they didn't just attack each other immediately, they attacked everyone else, which I thought was a nice change, before they went back to the stare down in their 1v1. Which I can see some definite interest in there. I like that the fans are finally getting behind Tamina. I know she's been there for a while and she hasn't really done much, but from what I've seen, she's actually not that bad. Like, you cannot teach her look. Like, she'll always have that. She's intimidating. If I saw her coming down the street, I'd be terrified of her. And she always has, like, a role. I'm not saying make her a main event star, but you can use her to put people over, like Ember Moon, which they did in this match, or like Asuka. Which, by the way, the reason I mentioned those two is because those two are big highlights for me in this match. But moving through the thing, I really liked the Carmella spot where she did a dance-off and Ivory joined her. I thought that was really a good way to show Ivory. Good way to keep her in the match for a fairly good reason before getting eliminated by Asuka, which they booed Asuka, which I thought was interesting, until she did her flying hip attack to eliminate Ivory, and then they're like, okay, this is a good way for Ivory to go out. I didn't like that Carmella did a botch in the middle of the match. I wouldn't say like destroyed the match, but she's had a lot of big moments where she's had some botches, which kind of like knocks her down a peg, I would say. Because you have people like Becky Lynch and Naomi and Asuka and Charlotte fighting for at least top spots in SmackDown, and if you're botching like this, like, you're going to be stuck in that comedy role, which is what she's at right now. I really love what they did with, well, actually, before we get to that, let's talk about the Final Four they had. Technically it was a Final Five, but we didn't know that, because that's another part I want to get to, but the Final Four was Asuka, Tamina, Ember Moon, and Nia Jax. And talk about some of the most badass women in WWE history, all across from the ring each other. I really like that they knocked down Nia Jax and Tamina, and they brought back the whole Ember Moon Asuka rivalry. I thought this was significant just because it got a major pop because the rivalry was just fantastic in NXT. But the fact that I liked is that Ember Moon finally overcame Asuka. I think that's something that might be lost on a lot of fans. I think that really put Ember, like, in my eyes, that put Ember Moon a lot over. It's like, oh, she's going to be a champion now. Because she finally bested someone who's held her back from winning the title. I think I like the character of Ember Moon always, like, just not making it. Because you can make her into what Becky Lynch is right now, and then she'll be one of the most over stars. Because she has all the talent in the world. Her promos aren't that bad. You can feel her energy. I like that they gave her the elimination to Tamina too. That really, really put her over. What I also loved was what Zelina Vega did when she came in and tried to eliminate both and act like she was queen shit, basically. And what Nia Jax did with her, picked her up and just tossed her out of the ring. I thought it really put both of them over. Putting Zelina Vega's character over as this slimy, deceiving, taking anything she can get back, because she's really small. I believe she's only like 5 feet tall, maybe 4'11", and she's really talented on the mic. It came down to the final two. A lot of people wanted Ember Moon to win it. As much as I would love to win it, I understand why they did Nia Jax. Like, just from a standpoint, like, who's going to toss Nia Jax over? I think they did like a really good build to make Ember Moon not look like a wimp, because they could just make her look like a wimp and just have Nia Jax just toss her over. But the way they did it, I thought was beautifully executed. In my opinion, you got over Ember Moon, Tamina, because Tamina just looked like a badass throughout the whole match. You got over Mandy Rose. You got over Zelina Vega. You got over Nia Jax because she won the thing. Asuka and Naomi basically carried a lot of the action of the match, so you might be thinking I'm going to rank this high. The problem was a lot of the downtime did take away from it, and as much as it did do a good job of putting everyone over, it wasn't like, to me, it wasn't like, oh, this is a groundbreaking match. It was just like, I wouldn't say filler, but like, it definitely had its place. I've been struggling with it, but I think I'm going to rank it as a 2.5 stars out of 5. So like, that's not that it's a bad match. I really enjoyed it, but objectively, it just doesn't feel like it went to that next level, like where I'd be like, oh, this is an above average match. It was still fairly average. Well, I guess average. It was good. It was a solid match. It put over stars. It allowed everyone to showcase himself, but it didn't take it to that next level. This is what I'm trying to say. The next match they had on here was the 2018 Mae Young Classic Tournament Final Match. Basically, the winner of the Mae Classic, last year's winner, was Kairi Sane. Fantastic. I love the story they built with her and Shayna Baszler, which we'll get to later because that's one of the marquee matches of the show. But Toni Storm and Io Shirai, I hope I pronounced that right. These two are stars. I guess the backstory, they both have backstories. Io Shirai was supposed to be signed to WWE a while ago, but she underwent an injury that kept her from being signed. So this is basically WWE's way of bringing her in. And Toni Storm was a semifinalist last year, and everybody was pegging her to win the whole thing with her and Viper, which they called Piper in this one, which I thought was really weird. Why they just go with the Viper name? And of course, Sane and Baszler. So I don't want to sound like I knew everything, but I basically pegged these two to be the finalists. And if you look at the tournament, the only other ones that could have made it was Tegan Nox or Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley was actually in the dark match. I never watched that match because it was a dark match. Unless it was in the preview, then my bad. I'll watch the preview next time. I don't usually because I already know all the backstory. And nothing really too significantly happens there except like good promos. But yeah, then Tegan Nox got injured, so like it was kind of like a foregone conclusion these two were going to be the final, but I had no idea who was going to win. Like, they both have reasons to win. They both had a reason to fight for it. Now let's get to the match. The build-up was great. I love the promo. Like, that's going to be a theme throughout this thing. The build-up promos for, like, the 4 bigger matches, I would say. Even though, like, the 6-man tag that's coming up next was considered bigger, but the build-up for the promo packages they had, I wish they brought that back, because it really, like, gives you like a good mindset going to the match, because I felt like all these like made me really pumped for the match. Match overall was fantastic. I do have some problems with it, but I'll get into that afterwards. I'll just explain how the match went. It started off as like a very Japanese style match with like exchange of holds, exchange of moves, getting inside each other's heads, the handshaking, which I quite enjoyed. Didn't really get the crowd going, and then they hit their big moves. Io hit a moonsault to the outside, which looked, the arrow on that was fantastic. Toni Storm hit a German suplex onto the apron. I thought that she killed her. Fantastic. I wouldn't say the match went downhill. The pace kind of changed. It kept getting more intense, which is good. Toni Storm hit her finisher on Shariah, which was basically Tiger Driver, a sit-out Tiger Driver, pile driver, not pile driver, powerbomb? Yeah. Pro Rover Plunge, let's go with that. Except done, I don't know how exactly I want to. Let's just say I don't like the move. I know Toni Storm's finisher on the Indies is a pile driver, but I know WWE doesn't accept that. However, I think she can come with a better move. Like, this move didn't look like it was like the match ending, for me at least. It felt very lackluster. When she kicked out, I was like, of course she kicked out. That looked like shit, you know what I mean? Like, not to shit on Toni Storm, but need a better move. I eventually came back. I will talk about the selling afterwards, because I don't want that to take away from this. She set her up for her big moonsault finishing move. Toni Storm got the feet up, hit her with her crappy finisher again. 1, 2, 3. The match was fairly short. It was only a 10-minute match. I can understand why, because they're not exactly like WWE made people yet. They're just coming into the company. But I think the match should have been longer, because if the match was longer, it would definitely be like higher ranked for me. Like, it failed from the lack of time. Now let's talk about the selling in the match. Io's selling was fantastic. I believed every second of it. Her selling was top notch. Toni Storm's, it was good, but my problem was her facials. Her facial looked, she's the exact same facial where she looked really sad, or like, I don't know how to describe it. You just feel like she makes the exact same face quite a bit. I don't know if that's like her gimmick or whatever. I've watched some of her matches. I do not recall her making that face like all the time. Like, I don't know if it's just a petty thing, but it really took away from the match for me. Like, I cannot like focus like on that face. Like, it was too over the top. It was too comical for me. That being said, this was definitely one of the better matches. This was easily like the third best match on the show, easily. So Toni Storm wins it. She has her emotional moment with the trophy. Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Sarah Del Rey, I forgot her name for a minute. The trainer of NXT all came in, congratulate her. Hunky dory. I thought that was all well executed. Overall, I'd give the match I'd give it a 3 out of 5. It definitely was it definitely needs to be longer. If it was longer, it'd probably be ranked higher. Like, I understand some people like short and sweet, but I feel like it was missing something. Like, they could have done more. Now let's move on to the 6-man tag. Sorry, 6-woman tag, which was the team of Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Natalya versus the Riot Squad. I love the Riot Squad's get up. I love Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Natalya's get up. I love the girls were on fleek. Let's be honest here. Their gear was freaking amazing. I loved every second of it. I don't really want to go step by step through the match for this one. I just want to talk about key parts. Let me start just by taking a side about Natalya. I was really happy Natalya didn't participate in most of the match. I was happy she was on the outside. She did her few little things she does. This might be a personal gripe, but it's not really, because like, I want Natalya to do better, but from the years I've watched Natalya, everyone talks about how great she is in the ring and stuff. I personally don't see it. I think she's technically good, but it's not like anything above what I expect from a WWE wrestler. I think she lost her magic for me after her Beth Phoenix tag team back in, I believe, 09, 10. And there, after that, she's kind of lost her magic for me. I guess I understand they gave her like the farting gimmick and the gimmick where she was always with Hornswoggle and Ray Khali, and that kind of killed a lot of her momentum. But to be honest, before that, her matches weren't exactly exciting. The only match I absolutely loved of her, which was an amazing match, which I suggest you go back and watch, is the very first Diva title match between Natalya and Michelle McCool. That match was fantastic. Then again, that was a younger version of me, so maybe if I watch that back, it might suck. But from my memory, it was a great match. The thing about Natalya is she only has she kind of just does the same kind of moveset, which is kind of standard for a lot of WWE wrestlers, but she's overall pretty stale. She doesn't really have much of a character, except that I've been here long, I'm a veteran, which doesn't really stand as you're a main event style talent. And with the women being pushed to the forefront, I don't see her becoming a main event. I see her being pushed aside and putting over a lot of these younger talent. It was good that she got her moment in the sun as a pay-per-view, but I wish they gave it more to Sasha Banks, personally. Also, the fact that her only big spots in the match was her, what is it called? Luke Harper discus clothesline, which, of course, every time she does it, it looks fantastic. And then she does her sharpshooter, which looks great. And then she does her, where she does a sharpshooter to 2 people at the same time. And since she's done it so much, it's kind of watered down. So I got that out of the way. This match was good. I loved Bayley and Sasha. I kind of feel like they didn't put in their best performance. Maybe it's just because they're restricted to a tag team match, and they're mainly on the end of selling to the Riot Squad. Bayley did. I love when she goes through a drop kick through the apron to try to get to Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. That Sterling cuts her off and drop kicks her into the ring post. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch the match, and you'll understand. And from that point, the Riot Squad went to work, and I loved every moment of what they went to work. The Riot Squad as a team, wow. Their quick tags ins and outs, their double team moves, their pressure they kept, the way they cut off the ring, it was fantastic. The looks they gave, the way they sold everything. Riot Squad were on fire tonight. I think they go under credit, they go because most of the focus on Ruby Riott, which is well deserved because she's a star. She's going to be a main eventer, I can guarantee you. I watched her match with Charlotte back at was it Elimination Chamber or No Way Out? I think they changed it to No Way Out. They had a title match and that Charlotte beat Ruby Riott, and wow, I saw star quality there. Mark my words, she will be a future star unless injuries hold her back. She wasn't really she didn't have much time in the ring as Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, which I thought was interesting, but I kind of liked it because it gave the other two, because Well, Ruby Riott was gone. They kind of just like lost a lot of matches to like Sasha Banks and Bayley. They weren't really a focus, and this gave them their ability to show what they can do in the ring, and I thought they did fantastic. Speaking of Liv Morgan, number one spot in that match, I don't care, is when, you know how they do like the drop down and the person jumps over top and runs the side? Liv Morgan gets in front of Natalya and just does like the cute pose where she's laying in front of her. That was fantastic. I popped for that. I'm not going to lie. That was fantastic. Now let's start to go to the ending of the match. It starts getting more chaotic. This is where I start like nitpicking things. I can't help it. I think the Riot Squad, because they kind of did all their stuff, and now they're just like hitting these big moves and like it was getting these big kickouts, and then I started getting confused about who's tagged in the ring, who's not. Adds to the chaos. It does add to the match a bit, but the reason it takes away from me is because you can start to see like miscommunications here and there. It wasn't as bad as like the Trish Stratus match earlier, but it did take away a bit from it for me. The other factor, I was talking about Sasha Banks and Bayley holding. I wouldn't say holding, like they weren't performing their best. It kind of seemed like they were just doing like their regular sequences they do, so I wasn't a big fan of. Sasha Banks, I will admit, her selling, wow. Like Bayley did some good selling, but Sasha Banks selling, wow. That's why she's a main eventer. That's why I don't understand why WWE doesn't just keep pushing her to the top. Put her with Rousey, like that's money right there. But when we get so close to the finish, I love the finish of the match. Natalya does a powerbomb, Bayley does an elbow drop, and Sasha Banks hits the frog splash. And then the 1, 2, 3. What I really loved about this was how they were basically emulating their favorite stars from the past. Like Bayley hit the elbow for Randy Savage. Natalya hit the powerbomb. I think that's supposed to be for Neidhart, but I don't remember Neidhart having a powerbomb as his finish. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was more like a spine buster because it would be set up for the heart attack. But, you know, she might have been emulating somebody that I'm just too uncultured to know. And the frog splash was, of course, for Eddie Guerrero and the other big celebration in the ring. I thought it was a nice touch. Overall, how I'd rank this match is I've kind of been toying around with it. I think it's about a 2.5 to 2.5 stars to 2 3/4 stars. Probably lean more to 2 3/4 just because the Riot Squad really, really put over the match for me. I hope that they bring the women's tag team belts, which is what they've been toying around with, and give it to the Riot Squad. I think they're the most formidable tag team they have in WWE right now. Now let's go on to the match that I was most looking forward to. So this is why I can't put my own personal bias into this, because if I did, I'd probably rank this match the best. But it's just because bias, because I love both these stars. It was Shayna Baszler taking on Kairi Sane for her championship. Kairi Sane is going in as NXT World Championship. She won it from Brooklyn 4, and she rolled up Shayna Baszler. The build up to this match was great. I love both characters. Kairi Sane as the plucky babyface underdog that is a tough SOB that's willing to fight anyone and anywhere, and Shayna Baszler being the badass that she is. Probably the most believable women wrestler. To me, she's more believable than Ronda Rousey right now. And that's saying a lot. Like, I believe they've built her up so well. She's easily my favorite wrestler in NXT right now. Extremely underrated. I know she's hated because of the way she looks. She's not exactly super attractive, but I personally think she's attractive. I think she does in the ring is amazing. For me, there's never been like a women wrestler that I've looked at, I'm like, she can kick anyone's ass. Like, maybe like Asuka kind of gave me that feel, but I feel like Shayna Baszler like paints the picture a lot better. Going into this match, they have a good build-up. They have Shayna Baszler start the match by kind of toying with Kairi Sane. Toying around with her. Kairi Sane toys back with her. And then Shayna Baszler just goes to work on her arm. And man, Kairi Sane's selling. She made me believe every second. The arm snap and the stomp on the arm, that I cringed. I cringed way too hard at that. The fact that I don't know how she did not break her arm. I don't know how Shayna Baszler did, but that's why they're pros and that's why they're great at what they did. Kairi Sane's comeback was fantastic. Made me really believe why she's the champion, why she's a tough son of a bitch, why she was knocking Shayna Baszler all over the place. She's the sliding D into the ropes. She did her big spear, which I love. Her spear just fantastic. The one thing that impressed me the most was her dive to the outside. She was going for a big elbow, the insane elbow, and she did this amazing crossbody to Shayna Baszler on the outside. The match was fantastic. Before I get started going to finish, I want to talk about the crowd in this match, because the crowd did. They came near like the mid match. But the beginning of the match was they're kind of quiet, which kind of took it will like I feel like if the fans aren't there, it does take away from the match overall. Like if the fans aren't there, then for me it's personally hard for me to be like heart invested in a match sometimes. Like you want the crowd to be there, you want to feel the energy. Let's start moving towards the finish. Shayna Baszler is getting knocked silly by Kairi Sane. She's hitting her with elbows, she's hitting her with her back fist, she's hitting her with kicks. She dumps her to the outside, dumps her into her friends. The 4 horsewomen of MMA. Which are basically, they're currently training in NXT. Looks like they're going to be like the tag team of the group, with Rosie being like the head honcho. Baszler being the heater, and then these two as a tag team. And then they proceed to interfere in the match. My biggest gripe I had in this match, which I was not a big fan of, is I don't remember her name, but the blonde one. I'm sorry, this is quite unprofessional, but they haven't really mentioned them a lot, so forgive me. Oh, here's her name. Jessica Duke. Or sorry, Jessamine Duke. Yeah, Jessamine Duke grabs her by the hair right in front of the ref. It clearly interferes. Even Kairi Sane says she's interfering, and the ref just has the most dumbfounded look in her eyes. They should have planned that better. That should have been a DQ right there. I understand that's not the finish, but it really took away from the match for me. It really took away. I'm like, that's a DQ. Like, what the heck's going on? You can't have moments like that. She tries to climb back in the ring, and then the other one, Maria Schaefer, comes in. She knocks her off the apron, another distraction. And then Shayna Baszler tries to take advantage of this, but gets hit with Alabama Slam, which impressed me. Like, holy. Like, Shayna Baszler's double the size of Kairi Sane. Kairi Sane goes for the insane elbow off the top. Wait, no, that's what happened. She hit that first and then got distracted. My bad. Wrong sequence of events. After she comes back down, she sees Shayna Baszler. She's getting ready for another big move, and she gets kicked in the head. Am I messing this up? I feel like I'm messing this up. How'd it go again? Because I know she came off the rope. Duke hit her. Oh, yeah. After the distraction, Shayna Baszler puts her into her finish, which is basically like her chokehold or whatever she calls it. It's just a rear naked choke. Kairi Sane fights out of it, goes for a pin, knocks Shayna Baszler back down. He's going to go back up for the elbow. Gets distracted by the ref again. This time they actually planned it well, so Maria distracted her. She gets kicked in the head, gets caught back into the choke, and she gets choked out. And I like how they had it be a technical submission. I like the way that this finish actually went. I know a lot of fans, like, they're booing the crap out of it, which I thought added to it because it makes Shayna Baszler looks like she got heat. She looks more like the heel. This is what's supposed to happen. She had to use her friends just to beat Kairi Sane because she might act like this big, tough badass, but she can't actually beat Kairi Sane in fair one-on-one competition, which I thought made Baszler look good because she got over because she's the champion now. She got the heat. She's the bad guy. This leads up to the rematch, which I'm excited to see. Kairi Sane gets over because it shows how tough she is, that she can actually beat Shayna Baszler. She had her beat. Fantastic match. I love the ending of this. There's some big things that take away from it. That's why taking out my personal preference on this, I give it 3.25 stars. It would be 3.5, but that one moment with the ref DQ, I just can't. And with the sloppiness of the other girls getting involved, like, I can't give it much higher than 3.25. Now let's move on to the match that everyone thought should be the main event. The last women's standing match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. I love the promo package for this one. It was fantastic. It really put over both stars, really showed the story. For anybody who's not paying attention, which why wouldn't you? This is the biggest story on SmackDown right now, in all honesty. These are both of this from a wrestling standpoint, I can understand why this is the main event, but if you're looking at how you're going to get more appeal from outward media, you put Ronda in the main event and Nikki Bella because they're more recognizable. That's just the way it is. This also can give another storyline for Becky Lynch to say, why wasn't I in the main event? I am the best wrestler there is, blah blah blah, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't complain too much. They did get the most time in the entire match. The match pretty much went half an hour. Entrance was great. The start of the match was fantastic. The glares, the reversing of each other's moves, the eventual shoving each other's face. Loved all the moments. I loved how they gave Becky control early on. Really established her as like a strong champion. They moved to the kendo stick spot. Charlotte Flair, wow. Overall, this entire match, Charlotte Flair deserves all the credit as a seller. Her selling was impeccable. Honestly, her selling sold the match by itself for me. They go into probably my favorite spot I've ever seen in a last man standing match. My favorite spot easily was when they all started tossing chairs in the ring. I thought that really built up to the moment, like, oh, this is getting crazy. This is getting chaotic. There were some other spots in between there, them hitting big moves on each other, but it's not as, in my opinion, as significant as when they were throwing the chairs in the ring. Because this is when we realized, wow, this is the danger element. Let's see what they're gonna do. It started with Becky Lynch going for a suplex onto Flair, onto the chairs, but failing, and then getting tossed into the chairs herself. That was fantastic. No, wait. That would happened after Charlotte Flair tossed Becky Lynch onto the chairs first. Yes. So they both got tossed in the chairs. Fantastic. They're both building up to this table spot. They eventually roll out to the outside. Charlotte starts working towards the table spot where Becky Lynch gets the upper hand on her again. Gets her back in the ring. And then they proceed to do the chair spots. When Charlotte, as I mentioned, put Becky onto the chairs, this was really significant because this allowed her to get the table into the ring, and then they can do the big table spot they were planning for. Note before this, Becky Lynch has basically been having the upper hand most of the time. I believe she got Charlotte into the chairs twice. She got a big rock bottom style and her Bexplex onto the chairs, which were fantastic. But she also got put onto the chairs by Charlotte Flair. So leads this big table spot. Charlotte Flair hits her onto the table. Goes for a moonsault. Goes for your patented moonsault onto the table. Doesn't break. The way they rolled off made it look really painful, I will admit. But then she gets her back on the table and does a swanton. And wow, her selling afterwards made it look great. So we're gonna harp on Becky Lynch for a little bit. Is every time she got up after that point, I get that going through the table you're supposed to sell that it hurt a lot, but the spaghetti leg sell, it was her selling was a little over the top for me. She seemed like she just got into a drunken brawl, more than that she got slammed through something, which took away a lot from me. Ladder gets introduced. I don't remember who brings it in. The significance of what transpires for that is Charlotte gets slammed into the ladder. And man, her selling on that point too It's fantastic. All the spots that follow this is basically a lot of trash talking. Oh, sorry, I'm actually missing a significant thing. After that, Charlotte gets a significant boost onto Becky Lynch. Traps her legs into the ladder, starts stomping on it. I like Michael's cool commentary on this point where he starts mentioning that if you hurt the legs, you can't get back up. And then she does the figure 8 onto the ladder. Now look, when they did the figure 8 with the ladder, I thought it's aesthetically pleasing, but you just have a ladder on top of your leg. Like, that's just more annoying than actually, like, painful, in my opinion. It didn't look that painful to me. I liked how Becky Lynch broke it, like desperation break it. The very small moments of desperation and the anger in their eyes and the looks that they were giving each other were fantastic, and it was what made this match, like, definitely the match that stole the show. Sorry, I was just thinking about how dumb that ladder thing was. It, like, a lot of people pop for it, but I thought it was kind of dumb overall. So then they get outside. Becky Lynch drops a great line. I don't remember what she did to Charlotte Flair. She knocked her down. That's what I remember for the most part. And then she says, why do you get up? Please stay down. Like she's had enough type thing. But she doesn't want to lose her championship. She then proceeds to take her belt and leave. Charlotte Flair chases her, which I thought was a nice touch, to go to the outside ring and chops Becky like 20 or 30 times. That was great. I thought it really added to the intensity of the match. They get back in. Charlotte's fairly angry now, and she takes apart the German announce table. I thought that was great. The build up to it was good. She's trying to get her on. Becky gets the upper hand, actually gets her on. But before that, Charlotte gets a crazy idea. Let's set up a ladder and go through it. I always notice when somebody sets up something in WWE, it's always the person who sets up the ladder that ends up getting, like, the worst part of it. So Charlotte sets up the ladder. Becky gets the upper hand, gets her onto the announce table, does a double leg drop through Charlotte through the table. It only gets to like an 8 count. I haven't even mentioned the counts because the counts are kind of sporadic. Sometimes it'll be 4, sometimes it'll be 8. For me, it didn't really add to the drama. For other people, it might have, but for me, we all know they're going to get up. This one, I didn't think she was going to get up. I thought that might have been the finish. It wasn't. I was happy about that because I get to see more action. I love what they did with afterwards. Charlotte looked very angry. Becky just started beating the crap out of her. This is where it kind of got a little silly. I understand what they're doing, but, like, they tossed a couple of announce chairs on her, put half the table on her, put some chairs on her. Like, that's not heavy stuff. Like, we know that. They probably shouldn't have done that. But when she stood up through it, like at the 7 or 8 count, she looked really angry. The after show was great, but I still didn't take it away from the fact that was kind of dumb. Like, it was interesting, but, like, it didn't, like, if they had a better lead up to it, I probably could suspend my disbelief, but or suspend my belief, but, like, it was really hard for that one moment. It really kind of undid, like, a lot of intensity up to that point for me. I might just be nitpicking, but I wouldn't say it killed the match, like, because Charlotte's facials and Becky's facial about how Charlotte just got so fed up, and Becky's like, oh no, don't hurt me. And then Charlotte started getting her revenge, hitting her with the kendo stick, bringing it to the side where she was trying to set up that first table, and then getting ready to prop her up onto the table, smashing her about. Here's another gripe I had. So she knocks Becky basically out beside the table, and the ref does not count. It's like ref count, she's down. Like, I understand that that's, again, not the finish, but when you take away what the ref's supposed to do. Because Becky was laying down there. I think I counted it was like 12 or 13 seconds. Like, at least have Becky start climbing to her feet. You know what I mean? Like, when you take away from that, then you realize, oh, this is pre-planned. It takes you out of what the match was. So, for me, kind of took away a bit from the match. Didn't take away from the finish. I love the finish. We're getting right into it. So, Charlotte props Becky onto the table. Starts climbing up to do her big moonsault again through the table. She's hurt. She can barely get up there. I guess I'm skipping over the fact that they always... That's one thing I like. They acted like they were hurt. Becky's overselling of the spaghetti legs was a little too much. Charlotte Flair did better on that aspect. But anyways, to the finish. She's going for the big moonsault. Becky Lynch climbs up, gives her this wicked powerbomb from the top rope to the outside through a table, and it looked like it killed her. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, if she gets up from this, then she's God. She deserves the title, but she didn't. They did a great build up to the 10 count, and Becky Lynch wins. Takes the belt, leaves. All the refs come out to check on Charlotte. Both are almost crying. Charlotte because she lost her opportunity, and she's in this tremendous pain. Becky Lynch because she made it out alive, and she is still your SmackDown WWE champion. Fantastic match. Definitely the show-stealing match. Definitely the best match on the card. Again, that comes down to should have been the main. If it was a main event, I think I would have ranked it higher because it would have had that big feel. But overall, I give this a match a 4 out of 5. It's going to be a match that's going to be looked on in history. When you think about this pay-per-view, you're going to think about this one match, I think. The rest of the matches don't get me wrong, there's some good matches on here, but this was the big match. This was definitely a 4 out of 5. I would definitely recommend, I would definitely show this to like any non-WWE fan. They'll understand this match. It was, minus those little gripes. Those little gripes is like why, in my opinion, it wasn't a 5 out of 5. But definitely gets ranked up as a great match. Probably best women's match of this year. And that's great because these women, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, are going to be shown to definitely be main eventers to the world in the road ahead, especially with Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey coming out at Survivor Series, which will be a fantastic match. I guess it's a kind of a spoiler for our main event, but it's time for the main event. And you know what that means. Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella with Brie Bella. If anybody thought that Nikki Bella was going to win, you're lying to yourself. Like, let's be honest here. There's no way Ronda Rousey is going to lose to Nikki Bella. Match wasn't that long. It was suspected that I didn't suspect it to be that long, and most people didn't either, just because the injuries Nikki Bella's had to her neck. That's why she can't wrestle full time anymore. Love the entrances, love the build up. Love what they're doing with Ronda Rousey's character. Let's get into the match. So the match starts off with Ronda Rousey towering with Nikki Bella. You know, standard stuff. Rousey showing how dominant she is. I love how they got the sympathy on Ronda Rousey. They had her go to the outside of the ring. Had the Bellas double team her. And they did that a few times throughout the match. Like, that's how Nikki Bella got the upper hand. She got at least I think Ronda Rousey bounced her head off the post like 3 times. What I didn't like is that's what they kept doing. For like the first, I swear to God, 8-9 minutes of the match, it's just Nikki Bella just upper hand on Ronda Rousey. I guess I understand they're trying to build Nikki Bella up to be a formidable opponent because she was she was the longest reigning Divas champion in recent history. Well deserved. She's a great worker. As much as people gripe on her, she's fantastic. The crowd wasn't too excited about this match. Like, there was definitely like split cheers, which I forgot to mention for the Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. The crowd really got into it. They were really behind Becky Lynch more than Flair. But there was definitely a 50-50, and I think the fans went home happy with the result and all that. With this one, it was 50-50 again. I think a lot of people are mad at Rousey because she just came in, stole the spotlight. And a lot of people think that the Bellas are untalented, which I disagree with. Nikki Bella is a fantastic worker. Look at her matches with Paige and Charlotte and tell me otherwise. Anyways, getting back to this match. I probably should tell you a lot. Is I don't know how to describe it. Like, I liked how they got sympathy on Rosie, but it was a little too much. Like, they dragged it on a little too much. I would like if Rosie got some more offense in. But then if you see, like, the ending sequence, the offense she did get in, Nikki Bella did not sell well. Ronda Rousey sold extremely well. She made Bella look amazing. The Bellas did not make Ronda Rousey look amazing. Nikki's selling was subpar at best, and then when Rosie tossed Brie Bella through the announce table, or over the announce table, I should say, Brie Bella did, like, the worst selling I've ever seen her do. Like, it was garbage. And then another spot I hated. It had great anticipation and build-up, but I did not like it. So Rosie did the roll through. She's going for her twisted Samoan drop, right? Brie Bella's trying to stop it, grabbing Nikki Bella, trying to save her. And then she puts Brie Bella on her top of her and does it. And hits both of them. Probably wondering why I didn't like that, because that sounds like it's amazing. If you watch the build-up to it, Rosie doesn't even put Bella on there. She just kind of climbs on top. And then she tosses them. Like, I get that this is supposed to be entertainment and we're supposed to, like, appeal to cooler spots, but when you do stuff like that, you just climb on top, it just kind of takes away from the match. It kind of just makes me not be able to suspend my belief that this is real. And that really took away, plus the not good selling. I really like the finish of the match. So Nikki Bella gets the upper hand again, hits her with the Rack Attack 2, which is funny because if I ever became a wrestler, that'd be my finisher personally. It looks fantastic. And Ronda Rousey kicks out, which got a great ovation. I thought it looked great. It looked believable. That's what I will say about Nikki Bella. When she's on offense, looks amazing. When she's on defense, looks like garbage. Which I guess is better than some wrestlers who look on garbage for both. But it really took away from me. So then the finish is coming. After that, Nikki Bella goes to the top rope, try to hit her big move on Rosie. Rosie jumps up, does this interesting cradle takedown, and then hits the arrow bar, and Nikki Bella taps out. Only a 15-minute match. She celebrates with her husband. Everybody sings Kumbaya, and all the ladies are on the ramp, and that ends the show with everybody glad-handing each other for such an amazing show. So, for this match, honestly, it's just a 2.5 out of 5. Maybe I'll even go lower. Nah, Rosie's selling made it a good match, in my opinion. The Bellas did kind of take away from it from being anything higher than a 2.5. So yeah, I'll stick with my 2.5 just because Rosie really carried it, which I thought the Bellas might help her through it, but no, Rosie really carried it, in my opinion. So the whole glad handing, I thought it was a beautiful end to the show. It showed all the ladies out there, all the women that made this evolution what it is today. And overall, it was a great show, even though, if you notice, a lot of these matches were ranked pretty average. I thought it was a good show just because of the statement that they put out, that they actually showcased some really good talent. I thought everybody was showcased fairly well overall. No one came out of the pay-per-view looking weak. I thought it really established what the women can do. I thought it builds to a great future. Because if you look at most WWE pay-per-views nowadays, a lot of the matches are not that great, to be honest. A lot of main events are really, really big letdowns. This one I didn't think had a single letdown. I thought these matches were extremely fantastic. And again, I highly recommend watching WWE Evolution. So looking forward into the WWE landscape. The next pay-per-view coming up is Crown Jewel. I will not be reviewing that pay-per-view, to be honest. I I don't like the whole controversy with Saudi Arabia. I strongly suggest that everyone actually skip out on that show. To be honest, I don't want anyone to support what Saudi Arabia is doing, because that's what WWE is doing with it. So I will be skipping that pay-per-view and doing the one afterwards, which we'll double check what that is. I believe it's it's gonna be NXT War Games. That'll definitely be a fantastic show, and Survivor Series, which is what I was kind of figured it was gonna be. I'm gonna definitely review both War Games and Survivor Series. And just give me my feedback. Give me feedback on what you thought, what your thoughts of the show is. Please check it out. It was a fantastic show. Probably one of the best WWE pay-per-views I've seen in a while. And as always, thanks for walking. Thanks for walking. What? Thanks for looking at my review. I know I'm just an amateur at this, but these are my views. I just want to create a discussion with wrestling, so thanks for always for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.